Modern Horizons 3 is officially here, and we are going over the top 10 must-have Commander cards from this awesome slam-packed set.
I'm Mia, and I love opening booster packs.
I'm BZ. I don't know what slam-packed means. I just made it up. We're joined by Miso, and we're sponsored by Card Kingdom. This is some of the reason Miso gets to eat food every day, is because Card Kingdom provides money to us, and we love the website. If you want to go to the website and support the channel so that Miso can continue to eat every day of his stupid life, there's a link in the description for that.
They help us eat, they help the cats eat, and they put us on their website, a full photo of us and some of our favorite picks. Go check it out. It's in the link below. We're also sponsored by Moxfield. It's going to be somewhere. And you could guess if you want. However, you will be lying if you said you got it right, because no one gets it right because you're a liar.
We are professional Moxfield ad placers.
Later. And Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
If you use the code
NERDS
at checkout, you can save 5% of your real money tax dollars on your entire order. You can even get sleeves with Miso on them.
Oh man, Miso, what a great guy. Who could skip these ads knowing that Miso's helping you save money on Dragon Shields? So, we've got a huge set. Modern Horizons 3 is one of the most impactful Commander sets to ever exist or be released. I know it's not for Commander, but it basically is Commander Masters 3 or whatever.
I mean, the precons were Commander, not Modern.
They certainly were. So we've got some honorable mentions because honestly, this set is so packed full of awesome stuff that we really just couldn't fit everything in. And these are 5 cards that we're a little unsure of, a little less sure of, but we know they're very good and they couldn't quite make this list. The first one, Emrakul, the World Anew. It steals somebody's creatures, all of them. When it leaves the battlefield, you have to sacrifice all those creatures. But I don't think Emrakul is very killable. B, I don't think when you steal the best board and then then your board dies, there's not much left to worry about. There's only 2 players with any boards after that.
This is such a nasty top end. The fact that it has so much protection from so many things. Spells you cast this turn and just stealing an entire board of creatures, and it's like, okay, well, if you can get rid of it, because it's on cast too, so it's like, yeah, I guess you could get rid of it, but like, if it dies and blows up, then all your stuff's gone too, you know? It's not like you're getting it back or anything.
Emrakul's kind of uncounterable because that's like the worst case scenario. Someone counters Emrakul and you only get the cast trigger to steal all their stuff and you never have to lose it. It just stays. Don't do that. We also have Ulamog the Defiler, basically going to nuke half of somebody's deck. It's hard to kill because you have to sacrifice 2 things to target it, and it has Annihilator like 7. And you can put counters on it, aside from the ability it already has, to give it more Annihilator. If this thing ever attacks, you're dead, like, period.
The fact that it's putting on so many counters, I think the reason it didn't crack our top 10 is because there is an entire cycle, turn cycle, where it could just be sitting around and then you kill it and nothing really happens. It's not like it has haste. It's not like it removes things on ETB, or it's like it just removes the target player's half of their library, which is incredibly impactful. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like nuking a couple permanents. It
doesn't impact the board.
It's not like drawing 10 cards, you know? So because it doesn't have that immediate impact on the board, I think it was put into our honorable mentions instead.
Yeah, and like, you know, just outside the top 10. We also have Harbinger of the Seas. It's Blood Moon on a creature. It's Magus of the Moon on a creature, actually. I don't think, like, this is pretty good. It's going to be disruptive. It's going to be annoying. I don't exactly know how scared of Mages of the Moon I am on a day-to-day basis, so we just kind of bumped it off, but it's a very good card.
I mean, it'll synergize well with a lot of those mono blue decks, and it will be very annoying. Like, will it be the best card at the table? I don't ever think so, but do I think it'll be very annoying and I will be like, we should get rid of that? Yes, because I love playing 3, 4, and 5 colors.
Sometimes you just lose to it. Siege Gang Lieutenant, it makes 2 tokens every single turn if you have your commander. That's just a lot of incremental free advantage that just keeps building up. As soon as you get 2 tokens out of it, you feel pretty good, and then the rest is gravy. Plus, it has a sack outlet ability. That ability is not even great, but it's just nice to have. It's extra.
I love the Lieutenant cycle. I'm happy they brought it back, and this is a pretty strong version of it because getting 2 buys, 2 ETB triggers if you have anything when creatures ETB or whatever, and then 2 things to sacrifice if you need fodder or whatever, that's great.
Yeah, our last one is Ocelot Pride. It's very cheap, and if whether or not you're gaining life, this kind of still just creates the City's Blessing really quickly because it's a 1-drop. You get the lands out, you get some tokens, great. And then you start copying tokens. It kind of just seems good all around. It's a lot of stuff that you get for very little investment. So we have it pretty high, but we got to get into the top 10. There's 10 cards that we thought, yep, these cards are busted. These are going to be really sweet for Commander. Number 10, what an uncommon, because it's still cracked the list at uncommon. Marionette Apprentice. 1 in a black for a 1/2. It has Fabricate 1, so it comes with either a +1 counter or most likely a 1/1 servo. And whenever another artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. This is like Zulaport Cutthroat plus It enables itself a little bit by giving you a body. Plus, it's bigger than Zulaport Cutthroat or Blood Artist. Like, this card just seems amazing.
I feel like Wizards is just feeding me everything I want. They gave me Mirkwood Bats. They gave us Zulaport. They're giving us Marionette Apprentice. I think this is amazing. There are going to be so many places where you want to play this. If you're making a ton of treasures, you put it in right there. If you're making just a ton of creatures and you have dice triggers, it goes in there too. If you're making both, I have a Mahadi deck. This is amazing in it. And like, I'm really, really excited for this. This is going to be one of the scariest cards in any sort of deck where you are sacking a lot of things. Or it's not even sack, it's put into a graveyard.
Yeah, so if they die to a board wipe or something, it's like insurance for that.
You still get those triggers. It's amazing.
Yeah, this card, I'm actually very impressed just at the baseline of a 2-mana Fabricate 1 creature. I think that 2 mana make 2 bodies is pretty okay in black, especially if one of them is a creature and not like a spell. On a creature, it's just a decent amount of utility, so this can help fuel your late game. Like, if you have to play Zulaport Cutthroat on turn 2, it doesn't feel great because the Zulaport Cutthroat's not really going to do anything, and you can't really sack it because it's part of your like late game plan. But this gives you a free body to sack to draw a card or sack to kill something, and it's just a nice little speed bump. It makes a lot of chumping, and the fact that it has 2 toughness means it can block 1/1, so like it's not completely useless. You know, Zulaport Cutthroat might as well be an enchantment in the early game, but this thing has text on it. They gave it a lot of extra buttons and knobs you can turn. It's so good.
I'm so hyped on this. It has been a bit of time since I've been so excited to open an uncommon and like genuinely hoping for uncommons, because BZ and I need a lot of these between us. Number 9 is Kozilek, the Broken Reality. 9 mana for a 9/9. When you cast it, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hands. For each card manifested this way, you draw a card, and other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2. There's a lot on this, but let's talk about the first one. 4 cards manifested, and you draw a card for each one manifested this way. That's already like pretty good. 4 card draw for a 9/9.
And you have the choice of whatever happens. So if it's better for you to mind rot 2 opponents and make them lose 2 cards in their hand and turn into 2/2s, you can deal with that and then play a 9 mana 9/9 that draws you 4 cards. Or if you have cards that you don't care about because you're about to draw more anyway, you just take 2 cards from your hand and you mind rot somebody else. Now you've got 19 power for 9 mana, and you just drew 4 cards. This was also on cast, so even if they kill Kozilek immediately, you still end up with 2 2/2s, and you drew 4 cards. Plus, this is the most castable Eldrazi Titan, the easiest one to cast we've ever had. It's only 9 mana, so it's not like this lofty goal of like, I hope I get to 11, I hope I get to 13. It's like, no, it's 9. It's doable, and even setting the card draw aside, it's a static overrun on all your colorless creatures, whether that's Eldrazi or artifacts or like servos or thopters, whatever colorless nonsense you have is statically boosted, so this can kill people the turn you play it.
That's something I'm super psyched about, because I feel like with the other Eldrazi, usually you're reaching for those, right? You're in like the big green stompy decks. You're making a ton of mana, you're trying to cheat them out early, or you're trying to just cheat them out off the top or something. But with this, it is doable in your like artifact decks if you're making a lot of like treasures or whatever. And then if you're making a ton of these little paltry colorless tokens, this doesn't have to just go in an Eldrazi deck. This is just a static team buff if you're making just a ton of artifact creatures that end up being colorless, which a lot of them end up doing.
It does a lot, and it just kind of has a bunch of different modes. Like I mentioned, all the ones we mentioned, and you can even choose not to make an opponent manifest anything. You can play it as a 9 mana overrun that draws you 2 cards and puts 19 power in play.
It's so versatile, and yeah, it's just up to 2 target players. So if it's best for only you to do because no one else has creatures or whatever, you just put 2 down and you go, okay, that's great.
Yeah, attack you with all my colorless creatures. Kozilek looks awesome. I'm so excited to play it, and I'm glad they did not do my boy dirty this time around. Kozilek, I think, for Commander might be the best one. They're all very good, don't get me wrong, but we're going to move to number 8, another colorless card, because it's a land. Urza's Cave. Taps for colorless, and you can pay 3, tap, and sack it to search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. You can't see it, but Miso, just off camera,
He's just running and chasing his tail.
Chasing his own tail. Very disruptive. Awful cat. This is a land that enters untapped and just makes mana. So what are the opportunity costs of playing this card? Almost nothing. If you're not a 5-color deck, if you're 2 or 1 color, you can kind of just play this for free. And then whatever your best utility land is, when you have a couple extra mana set aside to spare, or you need to get it to get some kind of advantage, you go find it and it just goes right onto the battlefield. I don't know what this card is. This card seems like a tutor with no downside.
I'm really excited for this. I want to put this in a bunch of decks because I think it's pretty easy. I am going, like, so many people play Reliquary Tower, and as their colorless land or whatever, that has a little bit of utility. But if you swap it out for this, I think this will be like more of an effect or something you want more of the time, even if you don't have a ton of utility lands in your deck, because there's at some point it's like, oh, I need one to sacrifice something, or it's better if I have, these colors out right now, and this will really help you find it.
If you are mono black, this is a staple. You're getting Cabal Coffers, Cabal Stronghold, you're getting Urborg, whatever. If you are a lands type deck that is 2 or more colors, you're going to get Field of the Dead. If you are playing a 2-color commander deck, I promise Field of the Dead is completely supported in your colors, let alone with Snow-Covered Wastes now. They have that too. This card just gets that, and it's another copy of Field of the Dead, so I'm obviously super happy about it, but it is so good for consistency. It asks almost nothing of you. It just says, have lands in your deck, and don't be incredibly dependent on having, 7 colors of mana on turn 7. You have to have a couple colorless lands in your deck for this one. Total amazing land. And like you said, I think this land's like 7 times better than Reliquary Tower. So if you're excited about Reliquary Tower, it's not a bad card. This card is 10 times better. 8 times better. 100 times better.
I can't wait to see this mono white Field of the Dead.
No, my mono white Field of the Dead deck is eating with this set.
It is just getting the biggest upgrade because of this.
It might almost be good. How about our number 7 card?
Number 7 is Fanatic of Ronas. 1 in green for a 1/4. If you tap it, it's add green. But if you tap it, you can add green, 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 but only if you have a creature with 4 or greater power. And you can internalize this. So this is the best 2-mana mana dwarf that has ever come out.
Pretty much, as far as it requires almost no building around. Green decks tend to just have big creatures in them. That's kind of how they roll. And this thing fuels itself. So even if it only said tap, add green, 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 if this creature is a token, it just eternalizes itself later. So if this dies, it just taps for 4 automatically. And it's already a mana dork that comes back when it dies and does something a little bit more. This card has so much going for it. It doesn't need any one of the 3 lines could be taken out, and it's still really, really good. So I'm excited to play this. It also has some utility with combos, because now that it taps for 4, that's the magic number to start getting things like Teamer Sabertooth or Umbral Mantle in to just make infinite mana with some haste enablers or just other kind of critical mass things. This card is scary. It's also just got 4 toughness for what I can only imagine is no reason at all. This thing just kind of blocks in the early game if you needed to.
This is nasty. This with the intruder alarm combos and such.
Yeah.
This is going to go off really quickly. I'm excited to put this in decks, and I'm also scared to see this across the table.
It's just scary. It's just the most efficient.
I never thought I'd be scared to see a mana dork across the table.
They can be scary, but Incubation Druid is okay. It takes some time to get going. Gyre Sage takes some time to get going. This is just 0 to 100. You played on turn 2. I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna lose the game. They have a 4-power creature in their hand. They're gonna play it next turn, and now it's gonna make quadruple mana.
I'm playing this in Sylvala instantly. We pulled one. I'm so excited.
All right, number 6. We cheated a little bit, but not really. It's the Flare cycle. This is a cycle of 5 spells, each of which you can cast for free by sacrificing a non-token creature of the color that the spell is. The white one is a fog, and it gives your creatures indestructible and hexproof. The blue one is a counter spell. The black one is Soul Shatter, so each opponent sacrifices the creature with the greatest mana value that they have. The red one is a fork, so it copies an instant or sorcery. And the green one is Cultivate. I'm excited about all of these. I think they all have plenty of homes. They are all very easy to include. And even if you're not excited about the spell at its face, the fact that you can cast it for free just changes all the math. I don't like Cultivate that much. Cultivate for free? I'm a little bit more interested in it.
I think that this cycle is amazing. Obviously, not all of them are created equal. I am highly prioritizing the counter spell and the Soul Shatter, and then the copy falls next for me, and then I think Cultivate and Fog are at the bottom. I'm not sure exactly which one I think is worse at the moment, but the fact that they are free, and if you're running enough creatures to make this worth it, and you probably are at that point.
Yeah, so you have to obviously play non-token creatures in your deck. That's when you start considering
that you're
these.
Okay with them being, disposable.
Right. That's why I like the black one so much. Black just has those lying around all the time, and sometimes it's better to sacrifice them. You might get other effects and other bonuses. So the fact that I get Soul Shatter, a card that I'm excited to play in all of my black decks, pretty much without exception, I get that for free, and I get to sacrifice something. I just it's unreal. And the bailout of all of these cards is if you don't have something, that's the worst case scenario. They're just still castable. You can still just play 4 mana, make my dudes indestructible. I can play 3 mana counterspell. It's fine.
I like the fact that they're actually castable because, you know, it's like when they have Force of Will, it's like, oh no, I have no cards in hand. I have to pay 5 mana for a counter spell. That's like, you're not doing that. But in these, it's like, I guess I have 3 mana. I guess I can pay that. I'm not happy to play 3 mana counter spell. But when it can be free, and I built my deck to make it free 80% of the time, pretty happy to put it in.
Yeah, I also like the red one. The red one is kind of like rising in the ranks. I think it's the third best one, like you said. I think there's a lot of potential for infinite combos where you are copying spells, and when you copy a copy, if the original copy was targeting something else, you can get an infinite chain of copies going, which triggers Magecraft for whatever payoff you have infinite times. And adding a free copy spell to that little concoction makes it a lot more doable and a lot less janky. So I'm scared of that. I'm scared of all of these things holding up instants that affect the game heavily that are 0 mana means you can't even predict them. So these are just going to be super good, like format defining cards.
I completely agree. I'm also very happy, off topic, that they didn't put this spell cannot be copied on it. I feel like they've been doing that a couple times on certain spells, you know, that's like C double and stuff. It's like, it just can't be copied. And they're not taking like the cop out of this. It's like, no, this can be copied, and it can be free too.
What if they start putting that on cards? This spell can be copied. They just say that.
No, I mean, that's just implied, right? Number 5, Spymaster's Vault. This is a land that enters tapped unless you control a swamp. And you can tap it to add black, or if you pay black into it and tap it, target creature you control connives X, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. Whew. This is great. I love the fact, first of all, that it's not a basic swamp, it's just any type of swamp, so any sort of like duels that you have, shocks, you know, triomes, it works for that. It just taps for black easily, and then just conniving, paying 1 mana and paying into it to connive, especially if you have a ton of like Fleshbag Marauder effects, if you do it after a board wipe. Like, this can be amazing.
This card is very, very strong. You do need a creature that survives the board wipe, but some kind of effect like that, or some kind of like Meat Hook where it takes out most of the creatures and you end up with one. This is a huge amount of conniving. This is looking at so many cards. You're putting exactly what you want into the graveyard. You're giving a creature counters if it's got lifelink or whatever. Evasion, it's just even stronger. This is a land that enters untapped like 90% of the time. It is such a free roll to include this in your deck. And honestly, I love all 5 of them. If you see any of those lands, pick them up because they're all extremely good and extremely playable. But I did want to pick a best one. I think Spymaster's Vault is the best by a lot. I don't know if the rest are good enough to crack the top 10. And I didn't want to put them all together. So Spymaster's Vault is the representative of this very, very strong, very, very easy to include in your deck land cycle.
I think my next favorite one is the blue one. I think that has a lot of potential, but Spymaster's is my favorite by far.
Yeah, they're all super sick. They're super interesting. And, you know, the cards in Modern Horizons 3 are so good and will be so ubiquitous that I do think Commander decks are about to get slightly less diverse. Yeah. And especially when we get to the end of this list, you'll see.
I think it's just, this is format defining, right? There was like MH2 came in and a bunch of new staples came out. The Dothy Voidwalker, that was everywhere afterwards. We're seeing like in a lot of decks that can blink and stuff, we're seeing like the Solitude and stuff.
Yeah, I mean the
MH1
had Urza Yawgmoth.
Yeah, so it's just MH3, you know, another Modern Horizons comes out. There are going to be format defining staples no matter which format you're in, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. How about number 4? Number 4, I guess because you read the last one, is Warren Soul Trader. I set you up only to spike it myself. 2 and a black for a 3/3. You pay a life, sacrifice a creature, another creature, create a treasure token. Very simple. Did not think they would print this card. This is one of the best free sack outlets in the game that I've ever seen. Probably top 3 or top 5. This is basically Phyrexian Altar, but they put a little bit of a stopgap and to make it so that you couldn't go infinite as easily. You have to pay 1 life. Now all you need to do is add a Blood Artist to whatever shenanigans you were already up to, and then it just cancels out and you can do whatever you want. The treasures stack, so you can save them for later turns if you can't go super hard right now. And it's just, if you have other alternate, like, treasure doublers, it gets even sillier. And Gravecrawler, Nether Trader, these cards are going infinite with a ham sandwich. I'm so scared of this card. I'm going to lose to this card so much.
If you have like Mirkwood Bats, if you have Marionette Apprentice, if you have Nadier's Nightblade, you could sack all the treasures, make everyone lose even more. This, and then with the Blood Artist effects, I mean, they're going to be dead in no time. This is great.
It's very scary. And like, even just responding to a board wipe, paying 7 life, sacrificing my whole board, getting a bunch of treasures. I don't even get triggers. They just tried to wipe me, and I go, okay, I'll store up mana. The next turn I untap with 7 extra mana. Like, that's like the worst case scenario for this card. I don't know what's going on. Warren Soul Trader seems kind of cracked to me. It is sort of more specific than some of the cards we've mentioned because you need to be like a heavy creature sacrifice deck, but how many decks is that? Black, green, black, white, black, red, mono, black. There's all over the place.
I feel like it can go in so many decks. I'm gonna see this card a lot. I also feel like I'm gonna lose to it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna be killing this card with extreme prejudice. I'm just gonna be, if I see Warren Soul Trader, it is
get it out of
here. I
here.
have to kill it. Yeah.
Number 3 is Necro Dominance. Black, black, black for enchantment. Skip your draw step. At the beginning of your end step, you can pay any amount of life. If you do, draw that many cards. Your max hand size is 5. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. This is not as good as Necropotence, which is one of the best cards in the format. However, that doesn't mean this is a bad card. This is a ton of card draw, specifically draw at this point. And just in general, if you can win that turn, if you can win at instant speed, this is amazing. If you can just win with like a few cards and you're just searching for those perfect ones, this could be really great. I think this has potential.
Higher powered commander decks do not need more than 5 cards to win the game, especially when you are looking at, let's say, 15 or 20, just because you can draw them all at the same time, and assuming you don't die in the next turn cycle, which I think is reasonable in a lot of cases. Now you just untap with your best 5 cards, insert combo here, insert win con, whatever you needed is now here. And I also want to point out that it is a little bit of a bummer to lose 2 hand size. You're down from 7 to 5. But if you have a Thought Vessel or a Reliquary Tower, it just cancels it out and you can keep all the cards.
That's awesome. I was also just thinking about the fact that sometimes people don't play Necropotence because it's a little bit sweaty. It's like a very high-powered card.
Well, it's probably like top 10 card in the format.
Yeah, and this is a more fair version of it. Maybe this will encourage people to put something like this in their decks because it's not at that top tier point of Necropotence. It can be stopped with like Narset and like Orcish Bowmasters. It like has downside, right? But
you can also build around a little bit with like Shield Red or something.
Yeah, but like the upside is so good.
Yeah, this card looks pretty good to me. I want to test it. This is a card I need to see in play. I have no doubt that it is at least very good. I need to see if it's so close to Necropotence that it kind of doesn't matter, right? It might be that good where it's close enough that if you see this thing, it might be too late and you're already dead and you've got to figure something out or hold up counter magic or something. But Necro Dominance is extremely scary. I don't think anybody doubts that.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit lower on that for me. However, I acknowledge it is very, very scary, and I probably will be using targeted removal on it if given the chance.
Yeah, and if, I'm trying to think of because Necropotence had sort of the secret fair mode, where you play a bunch of cards from your hand, and then every end step you just go back up to 7. That exists a little bit less with Necro Dominance. Going back up to 5 is not, I don't think that's as much of like a mid-rangey plan. So you might have less of the fair version, but this was never a fair card. We don't need to play fair, we'll just win.
It really isn't, and you're going to be getting to those pieces that you need to win immediately.
Yeah, number 2 is a card Mia is super high on. I think she has brought me onto the hype train because I kind of missed this one, and now I'm like, trying to see how many decks I can put it in.
I like this card. It's Horizon of Progress. It's a land. If you tap it and pay a life, add 1 mana of any type that a land you could control could produce. If you pay 3 and tap it, you could put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Or if you pay 1 and tap it and sack it, you draw a card. On its surface, I think this is pretty good and goes into a lot of decks. This is a reflecting pool type on the top. So if you have a command tower or something, it just taps for all of your colors. On the bottom, it's just Horizon Canopy land cycle. It gives you a little bit of card draw later if you don't need the extra mana. In the middle, I don't think you're going to be using that much. It's just kind of flavor text to me. However, if you do have the extra mana and you have a lot of cards in your hand and you want a little bit of extra land or you want to sneak something out, you can for 3 mana.
Yeah, I think a rainbow land paying life is pretty fair. Like, I'm happy to play City of Brass. I'm happy to play Mana Confluence, so I'm not too scared away by that alone. But I think my problem was I got too hung up on the middle. I'm like, I'm never going to use this. But then you kind of rephrase it and you're like, well, what if Reflecting Pool had 2 extra abilities? And then I'm like, wait, Reflecting Pool is already pretty good. If you just gave it 2 extra abilities and it can cycle when you don't need a land and it can ramp you on very rare occasions where sometimes you have an extra land you want to put out or you're holding up an instant and you don't end up casting it and you can now do something with your mana. Adding that to what is basically a rainbow land, I'm pretty excited about this one. I gotta say.
I mean, the Horizon Canopy land cycle, my whole fault with them was that it was only for 2 or 3 color decks to begin with, and there's only a cycle of 5 of them. It's not like every color combination you can get in that. But what if you could? What if you could just slap it into any deck? And
yeah, I like
this helps with that.
The more colors you play, the more fixing this can provide. But also, the less colors you play, the less fixing you need, and you can kind of just play this dual land that will cycle later. Like, does a blue-green deck want their their Horizon Canopy land and this, like maybe.
I would definitely put both of these in because I love my Horizon Canopy lands because it helps later, and it just gives me a lot of opportunity to get more cards in the later game when I don't need as much mana and I need those cards.
Yeah, the only knock I have on this card is you can't really put 8 different lands in your deck that deal damage to you when you
No.
tap them. You can't be taking four life to cast every spell. But I think in deck building you will know how many you have, and if it's less than 5, you're probably good to go.
I also want to see where this price falls. Will this be a budget alternative to like Mana Confluence maybe?
It is an $8 card right now, I
I
believe.
know
give or
Mana
take.
Confluence is like 30 or 40, and I know City of Brass is like 20, I think.
Even Reflecting Pool was very expensive.
It was like 8 last time I checked.
Got a reprint, and now it's lower. So we'll see where this settles, but I'm pretty excited to play it, and I definitely think it definitely has some homes. I'm excited. It gets my brain going of what's going to happen.
But number one is Moxfield.com, the best place online to build a deck.
It's got everything. It's got decks. It's got every card from MH3. So it's basically like every MH3 card rolled up into one. That's the place you got to go to build your Modern Horizons decks. And there's a couple good features that Moxfield has. It lets you see certain types of cards. It checks how many lands you have. It can check your average mana value. So if you want to build decks in style the cool way, Moxfield.com, absolutely your only option.
I've really loved it because I've been putting in MH3 cards, and MH3 isn't out as of this video. It's coming out like this weekend or something. And it still lets me put them in. It doesn't have to be in production right now for me to still put them in and consider them. I really love that feature.
Super cool. So, number one, if you know this channel at all, you maybe were wondering where these types of cards were going to be placed. And the answer is right here. This is the removal / creatures with enters the battlefield abilities MDFC lands. I didn't think we were ever going to see any more of these. And WotC was like, no, here's 20 more. Now, I want to point out that 10 of them I do not think are all that great. There's the dual-colored MDFCs that enter tapped and are dual lands on the back. I think those cards are very good. But I didn't put them in my top 10 because they're harder to play because they're more colors.
I also just want to point out, not only did I never think that we were going to get a cycle of them or like 10 very good ones, I didn't think they would come in untapped either. I was expecting closer to the Balageds and the Mortuary Mire, or not Mortuary Mire, Malakir Mire, there we go. And I never thought it would be closer to the Agadeems and the Turn Timbers. And I am so excited that I can pay life to use this as a land or just a very castable spell because they all have lower casting costs than the OG ones.
I need to take you back. And if OG fans of the Nitpicking Nerds remember when the Zendikar Rising came out, and I was saying how those 5 Mythic MDFCs are just some of the best cards I've ever seen in terms of how easy they are to play. Every single one of these cards is basically just better than the Mythic versions. The Mythic versions are pretty good. Like, they are still fantastic cards. I'm not going to play them any less. But now they just introduced 10 equally appealing, if not more so, MDFCs that have the same pay life, enter untapped ability on the back. And I'm just thinking
That's
of
what makes them nasty.
I'm sorry, but all of my decks are going to start to look slightly more similar because I'm going to now just play more MDFCs in my deck. And it's going to mean that I'm going to mana screw less and mana flood less. And all of my lands, I don't have to play any lands that don't do anything. All my lands are spells, baby. It's like every 1 and 2 color deck should be playing all of these. I will start to actually read what they do. I'll do a quick rundown. There isn't a bad one. There just literally is 0 bad ones here. There is a cycle of spells that are like sort of removal spells that are also lands and that can enter untapped if you pay 3 life. We have 1 and a white instant, deal 3 to an attacker. 1 blue, bounce something. 2 black, destroy a creature. 2 and a red, destroy a land, replace it with a basic, and then creatures without flying can't block this turn. 2 and a green, +2/+2, fight. Every single one of those is completely playable. I'm so excited to have them. You get to play another removal spell in your deck that if you don't need it as a land, and late game, as you put more MDFCs in your deck, your opponents are going to be drawing lands that do nothing, and you're going to be drawing spells that impact the board.
If they keep printing cycles like this, we are not going to have basics in our decks anymore.
Decks are just going to be the same. My deck's going to start with put 10 MDFCs in, and now what do I want to play around them?
This is actually pretty funny because I am building the new Sorin, and that is about life gain and that sort of thing. So life loss isn't as big of a deal to me. So I built with all the new Orzhov MDFCs, and like, you know, it's like deal 3, deal 3, deal 3, deal 3 if I want to have them come in untapped, but that's okay.
And it's optional. You just play tap.
And I think I have like 30 lands in there because I have 35 with MDFCs now.
Yeah, even if we just use a white-black deck as an example, I think you can play both of the mono-black pay 3 life uncommons, both of the mono white pay 3 life uncommons, both of the mythic rare. We're already at 6 MDFCs, and we haven't even touched the rare ones or the uncommon ones that always enter tapped. We can go through the creature ETBs as well. We have 3 and a white 2/2 that ETBs to naturalize. We have 2 and a white 1/4 with flash that can change the target of a spell to itself to sort of like fizzle or steal a removal spell. 2 and a black 3/1 that exiles a graveyard. I think this card is legitimately better than Bojuka Bog, and that's one of the most played black cards of all time. I think it's not close. This is way better. We have 3 red for a 2/2 that returns an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Also has prowess. And then we have 3 green for a 3/3 that sacks another creature to draw X, gain X, where X is a sacrifice creature's power. What a huge effect to put on these. I don't even know what to say. I'm floored. I'm playing all of these cards infinitely. I think if you want to get, technical, I think the worst one is probably the 1 and a white deal 3. I might not play that one as much, but the rest of them I'm excited about.
We will be buying 10 of each of these, and we will have a whole stack at our house, and it will just be MDFCs. And the fact, I also love these because they are printed at uncommon, which means they're not going to be unattainable to the average person. I'm sure if you rip open a pack, and which we have done a lot of so far, we have found so many just in casual packs. You can trade them around. They're going to be easy to get, I think.
This cycle is going to change how I build decks. I am so happy with MH3, and there's going to be so many cards I need from MH3 to put into my decks. I'm seriously, like Mia said, as soon as these cards go away from the pre-sale prices that are somewhat inflated, we're literally going to buy 10 of every single one of them, and they're going to go in all of our decks, and we're going to have a percentage improvement in all of our games from less mana screw and less mana flood. I'm so excited. I don't want to talk too much about these, but they are absolutely phenomenal, and I recommend you all get every single one of them.
Look, we changed the sign for a reason. We're excited, obviously.
We are excited, yeah. If you saw that sign, you got some foreshadowing. But if you want to see our thoughts on all 4 of the brand new Modern Horizons 3 precons, you can check out that video right here. It's worth the watch.